girl Ellie, the life, and I want to give a little story of how I became a full time content creator as well as still working. Yes, and so as we go through life, we be thinking we can handle all these, different positions that God give us in life, and so like, oh, I can do this and I can do that. Also, not only being a full time content creator, but also a full time mother of, I have five daughters. I'm gonna say four because one is out on her own. But I still be a mother to her too, though, whenever she needs help. So while being a mother and also being a friend, whenever I can go to like outings or dating, but it's definitely been life changing. I can say I've always had a liking to creating content because it's something that I actually enjoy. And also, too, I use it to like inform people of different stuff they may not know about. And to also keep my followers, or I would say supporters, updated on what I have going on because I have built several platforms. If content creating is something you want to do and you're scared, maybe the people you're surrounded around or not keeping you motivated and they're kind of negative about it, that's because the assignment is not on them. People, like when you have an idea about doing something and you got people that's telling you like, oh, you shouldn't do that, or they try to downplay it, it's because God didn't give them the vision and they don't get it. They're not going to get it. So what you have to do is just, stay focused, stay in prayer. If you have a religion, make sure you're always communicating with God and asking Him to lead you to what it is that you're trying to do. You want to actually ask Him to lead you to do His purpose, okay? Because when we try to figure it out on our own, we don't be having it figured out. But ask Him to show you what your purpose is and to be able to fulfill this plan that He has for you. Because without God, it's not going to be possible. But with God, all things are possible. All right. So I've always wanted to do it. I would say I started wanting to do it when my life went from a for a turn. 2020, no 2010. I became a widow. I was married to a pastor. At the time, I had two children, two little girls. They were from a previous relationship, and then he had three of his own children from a previous marriage that he was in. So we met, I think, around the time of his when he got divorced. Once we dated for probably about a year, and then we got married. We was married for a year. Unfortunately, he did pass away a few months after our anniversary. And 5 months after that, my youngest sister was murdered. She was murdered in front of her two small children. And I got custody of her kids the very next day. Because I was a kid that was a foster child, was placed in foster home. My mom went to prison and she had a 35-year bid that she was facing. And me and my sister, my youngest sister, we did stay together. I did have two older sisters. We were separated when we were babies, like toddlers. I think I was probably like 2 or 1 years old when we got separated, and they were separated from the family. My grandmother was able to get my oldest sister, and she brought her back to the family, but she had a lot of mental health issues, and so it was very challenging for my grandmother to deal with. My youngest aunt tried to step in and help, and then eventually she was able to get emancipated and out on her own, and that's when she was just doing whatever it was she wanted to do. And so she was, got mixed up with the wrong crowd, and they were able to influence her to do things that was kind of against her will, and kind of like shunned us out. They knew if we was shunned out, they really could do whatever it was they wanted to do with her. And that's pretty much what happened with that situation. I'll touch on that later. Um, but then my second oldest sister, she had got adopted into a family, and we didn't have a childhood together. I can remember the last time I seen her as a child. I was 6 years old, and she was about 8 years old. She's 2 years older than me, and I have a very small memory of that, and I took and kept that with me for a very long time. And so when I lost my youngest sister, I'm just like, dang, it's so crazy, like how all these things are happening to me. I was like, dang, I wish my other sister was here. At least we could have each other to comfort each other. But I was the backbone of the family. So, with that being said, the reason why I got my youngest sister kids is because I didn't want our family to be divided. I felt like it was my responsibility to keep the family together, to make sure that we did not get separated, and I did not know what my niece and nephew was at the time. So what happened with my sister, she was in a domestic violence relationship. Her abuser took her life in front of her two small children. At the time, she had a 3-year old son and a 2-month-old baby girl. The baby girl was not his, and he was aware of that. And I think that's where they kind of like started having problems at. They would argue all the time. She was, wanting this man to really love her and the child, and he told her he could never love the child because it was not his child. And they just, it was just very rambunctious, I should say, destructive, and he took her life, unfortunately. So my 3-year old nephew did witness that, and it did leave him very traumatized. He had a lot of behavioral issues that I was dealing with. So I was a widow. I went from having 2 children to 4 children. It seemed like literally overnight. And I did not know how I was going to take care of these kids. All I knew was I had God, and I just stayed in prayer. And God, He really took care of us and provided for us. And I just stayed on the course with the journey. So I would say after the passing of my youngest sister, um, maybe 5, 6 months after her death, I was reunited with my second oldest sister. A young lady, a friend of the family, had found my sister on Facebook. And how it happened was my aunt was talking about, how she had a niece that was adopted, and she would have love, to know how she's doing and where she's at. Now, I knew I had this sister, and I knew her birthday. I knew every time that birthday came, I used to be like, dang, I wonder what my sister is doing on this day. Like, what is she doing to celebrate? Like, how she look? How she think? Like, I just wanted to know all of these things. And so, fast forward as an adult, my aunt started thinking about her. And was it around her birthday time? No, it was after. My aunt started thinking about her. And the friend of the family was like, well, we probably can find her on Facebook. And she's like, girl, I doubt it. She's like, no, she's like, what's her name? So my aunt gave her name. She went and searched, and lo and behold, she found her. And so my aunt called and told me like what was going on, and she was like, the girl said she found her. She was like, I'm gonna send you her Facebook information. And I was like, okay, I want to see. And so when I looked at it, I said, she looked like my sister. She could be my sister. And so I was like, well, let's see. So the girl reached out to her. We ended up connecting. And long story short, we ended up finding out that was actually my sister. She was actually raised in a small town that's in Indiana, because I'm originally from Indianapolis, Indiana. She was raised in a small town in Indiana, which is Gary, Indiana, 2 hours away from my hometown. And we ended up reuniting. Now, I'm not, now, you know how some people like it's a fairy tale. It was not a fairy tale. When I first met her, we had a very crazy relationship. Both of us are very strong minded. There were questions she had that I could only give her answers to what I was told, because I was the baby of the family at the time when she got taken away. And so it was just very crazy in the beginning. And so, long story short, we are in a good place now. Something tragic happened to her last year. We had stopped talking to each other because she didn't understand what I was doing on social media. And so we got into a really bad argument. This is when TikTok started taking off back in 2020. And I was on there, dancing. And so it wasn't nothing real crazy, but it was like, what everybody was doing in 2020. And she just didn't get it. And she said some terrible things. And so I was just like, you know what, I'm done. I can't do this chick. She's crazy. I ain't about to explain myself to nobody. And so we did not talk to each other for 2 years. And then I ended up getting a message on Facebook saying, hey, your sister's been shot. Is this her? No, like your sister's been shot. This is her godson. Here's her number. And I said, what? I said, first I was like, I don't know if this is real. But then me being who I am, I'm like, let me call the number and see what's going on. So she actually ended up answering her phone. I her like, hey, what's up? I'm like, I got a message saying that you had got shot. And so she was like, yeah. She told me the story. And so, of course, no matter what we go through, if something crazy going on, we is going to be there for each other. Okay, so I definitely supported her through her healing process, and We've been cool since then, and I'm actually we both have moved from Indiana. I actually moved from Indiana like how many years? 11 years ago. I moved from Indiana to Atlanta, Georgia, and I was stationary there for a very long time. And then she still was in GI. She finally, after she got shot, decided to move from GI, and I ended up getting into the trucking industry, and I kept going out in the area that she was at. So I kept finding myself out in the area, like working, because I'm a truck driver. I'm a female truck driver, and so I was like, you know what? I think I like it here. The trucking industry seems pretty good. I think I'm gonna go ahead and just transition, which it was really hard because I love Atlanta, okay? And I'm gonna tell you a story about that later. So I love Atlanta. And everybody's like, you ain't gonna go nowhere. You ain't gonna go nowhere because you love Atlanta. I'm like, yeah, I do. I said, but shoot, the money's calling, so I'm gonna go where the money calling at. So anyway, I did the transition, um, moved out, and found a home and everything for me and my kids, and we've been here. So anyway, through the midst of everything that I've been going through, right? I don't believe God allows us to have things happen to us and we not share what it is, because when you're sharing that situation, that story, it actually can help somebody else that's going through the same thing you're going through. Or maybe in that moment, they might need some encouragement. They hear your story and it uplifts them. So I've always had that in my mind. I've always felt like my story needs to be told. My story needs to be heard, because it's going to help someone. So I started getting on social media, which was Facebook, and I would talk about it. And surprisingly, people would just start hitting me up in my messages, like, dang, you inspire me. You know, I don't see how you have lost all these loved ones and you're still going strong and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep on with this thing. And so I started with YouTube. I had a friend in Atlanta that was a videographer, or is a videographer because he still do it. And he agreed to record me and my family for us to start a YouTube show. And so we did a lot of recording or whatever, and it was going okay. Social media was not like how it is now, like how if you consistent with something, it'll turn into something. It wasn't really like that, but it was, people knew about it. So anyway, I was like, I ended up moving away from Atlanta for a while to Chicago because my dad is from there. I have a lot of family in Chicago. And I went and lived out there for about 18 months. Now I'm gonna tell y'all why I moved to Chicago. The reason why I moved to Chicago is because when I had left my hometown to live in Atlanta, maybe 2 years after us being there, I had lost my son, which was my adopted nephew from my belated sister that was murdered. And it was an accidental suicide. I will share more on that story as well. And so my dad would come to Atlanta to come help me with the kids. And so he was like, you know what? This is a lot. You didn't lost your sister. You lost your husband. Now you didn't lost your son. He was like, you need to come where I'm at. Be near so that I can help out more with the kids. And so I was like, yeah, you're right. Because at the time I just felt so broken. Like out of all the deaths that I have experienced, that was the hardest one. It is very hard losing a child. You have all these questions and you don't even have the answers to why or what you could have did to prevent it. Like I said, he was a very traumatized child. So with him seeing his father murder his mother, he would always have a lot of very disturbing behaviors. There were several times that he has done things in front of me, but not just me, like other family members, even at school. It was a time, it was so bad in school where he could not go to school without having a harness on. He had to have a harness on because he was hopping off the bus. It was just a lot going on. So anyway, that's the reason why I moved to Chicago and stayed there for 18 months. And it was cool. My dad did just what he said. He was going to help me with the kids. My youngest daughter, I ended up having a daughter. So this is crazy. Let me go back because I kind of feel like it's kind of like it's there, but I'm like missing some things. So after I had got my youngest sister kids, I went from 2 children to 4 children. So 2 were biologically mine, which I had 2 daughters, and then my sister had the son and the baby girl that was 2 months old. After getting reunited with my second oldest sister, She was just like, dang, where's our older sister? And I was like, you know what? I don't know. I said, all I know is that she was dating this older guy, and he basically kept her away from the family. I said, so, grandma's been reaching out, but every time she reaches out or make a missing person report, it would say like, hey, she don't want no contact. And so she was like, dang, she's like, well, we need to really try to figure out what's going on. I said, yeah, you're right. So after we had the conversation, I got a call from Child Services maybe some months later, saying that they found out that I was related to my sister, and they seen that I had previously got our youngest sister kids. Would I be interested in getting her daughter, because she had a daughter in need of services? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, well, where's my sister? What's going on with her? She in some type of trouble, like legal trouble or something? And they was like, well, we'll let you know. We want you to come to the office. Would you be available to come Monday? They called me on a Wednesday. I'm like, Monday? I want to know what's going on. What's up with my sister? I said, okay. So I called my other sister and told her what was going on. And I was like, hey, they told me that they got our sister's daughter. She's in need of services, and I won't be able to talk to them until Monday. It's on Wednesday. And so she's like, what? I'm like, yeah. So long story short, Monday come, I arrived to the Department of Child Services, and a social worker and her supervisor meets me. Now I knew it was serious when the supervisor was there. So they're like, hey, how you doing, Miss Abram? We thank you for coming up here to take the time to talk to us about your needs. We're gonna take you to the conference room. It was like a movie. Like, they took me through this long hallway, and it seemed like it was a never-ending hallway. And so we get in the conference room, and it's a long table. They sit on the opposite side of me, in front of me, and they like, hey, Miss Abram, we thank you for coming out here. We have some good and bad news. So the good news is that your niece is in need of services, and we do have her, but we need to act fast, because we found out a family has her that doesn't legally supposed to have her. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, so where's my sister at? And they said, well, unfortunately, your sister's deceased, and she's been deceased for 9 years. And it got silent just like that, because I could not believe what I was hearing. I said, what do you mean she's been deceased for 9 years, and y'all just now contacted me? And they said, we just found out about the case. We had to move fast. So we want to know, are you willing to take her? I said, yes. I said, but first I need to know some things. I said, is she mentally delayed? Physically delayed? Is there any behaviors I need to know about? And they said, physically, she's not delayed. Mentally, yes, because she has never been to school. She was 9 years old, too. And I was like, what? And I was like, wait, she's 9 years old and never been to school? And they was like, yeah, she's never been to school. And so I was just like, whew, okay. I said, well, I will take her. And so without a question, I took her. They called me and up like, hey, we can't wait these two. Can you do it right now? I said, yes, I can meet y'all. Where y'all want me to meet y'all at? So they had me meet them back at the Department of Child Services, and I picked my niece up. And so it was so strange, because this was the first time of me meeting my niece. It was the first time of her meeting me. And so basically what happened was, my sister was dating an older guy. I think he was about 15 years older than her, or 20. And both of them was mentally challenged, as well as his family. They took her into his family, and basically, persuaded my sister to do whatever it was. So my sister had got sick, and she had got a meningitis, from what we were told. And first of all, we wasn't told this. We ended up finding out this. So my sister got sick with meningitis. They were telling Child Services that she had been buried, but they didn't know where she had been buried at. Come to find out, we pulled up the death records. Someone in my family put up the death records, and it said that she was cremated, that her boyfriend's mother lied and said that she was her mother, and got my sister's body cremated. I don't even know how this was legal, how this funeral home service did not ask for any legal documentation, but they allowed this woman to sign my sister's death records or funeral arrangement records, and allows her to be cremated. We do not have her remains. We don't know where her remains are at. It's been been crazy. It was crazy. So anyway, long story short, when that happened, when my sister passed away, they did not notify my family. They took it upon themselves to say, hey, we're going to keep her baby and we're going to raise her as if she is our own family. So my sister was dating the son, but he was not the father, and he was well aware that he was not the father of my niece. And he actually knew who the father was, but didn't want to tell that either. And so they raised my niece thinking that his mother was her mother and that he was her brother and his grandmother was her grandmother. So for 9 years, my niece was being raised in this family that had a lot of mental health issues. She was exposed to a lot of things. They was giving her alcohol. It was a lot of foul play going on. It was just terrible. So, and they had her living in like an unsafe, unhealthy condition. Um, so me meeting her for the first time, and she's just confused. She was like, "Wait," so she's like, "Are you sisters with my mom?" I'm gonna say her name was what name? The lady. I'm gonna say the lady. Are you sisters with the lady? And I'm like, no. I said the lady is extremely older than me. The lady is about 40 years older than me. There's no way that, I could be her sister. And she's like, well, I'm confused. And I said, my sister, which is my older sister, is your biological mother. And she was just so confused. And I'm like, I know you don't understand this now, but you will soon. And so once I got her, I took her to my family house, and they had pictures and stuff of my sister. And so we just took out this picture book and we started showing her like, hey, this is your mother. And when she seen her mother, it was like she was looking at herself. And she was like, wow, I look like her. We're like, yeah, you look just like her. You look just like her. So that was the first time she had actually laid eyes on my sister, because that family never told her about my sister. She never knew who my sister was. She never knew my sister's name or anything. She didn't know about us. It was just crazy. So, long story short, it was challenging trying to deal with her because she was having like withdrawal syndromes because she had been raised with that family. So she still couldn't get the gist of like how I was her auntie. I even called her like the second night trying to leave out of my house at 3 o'clock in the morning saying she's going to her mommy. And I'm like, baby, that is not your mommy. I'm so sorry. My sister is your mommy. She not here now, and I gotta be your mommy. I'm sorry. And so going through all of that, I'm like, okay, this needs to be talked about. This definitely don't need to be shut up on. I need to get on a YouTube, but Facebook or something, and talk about these things that I have going on, because it's definitely not happening for no reason. So that's how I got into content creating. And at the time when I was doing it, I was nowhere near where I'm at right now, but I knew that it was gonna get me somewhere. And so, lo and behold, consistency and dedication, I kept doing it, and now I'm here. And so this is one of my platforms I have. The first platform was TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and now we here. Okay, and I'm so appreciative to be here. I'm so thankful for everybody that supports me on my YouTube channel. I want to be able to continue to give out content and share things with you. And also with me just being who I am, sharing what it is that I went through in life has actually helped me to be able to create revenue from it. So I do earn income from it. My first income that I received was from Instagram. It was it 1,500 or no, it was like 1,000, and I think the second was 1,500. I'm like, I get this from talking about what I do or showing people what it is I do. I gotta keep at this thing. I gotta keep at this thing. So that's how I got into it. And so some people like, how do you manage doing that plus working in like a mother and all this other things? And I just take it as every day in life we're doing something, right? We're using our phones. And so it could be the simplest things. You're going to the grocery store. You literally can vlog about you going to the grocery store, what it is that you're buying at the grocery store. And you posting that content can actually generate into dollars. And so I do have an e-book available to teach you how to be able to get monetized on Facebook. So when you're creating these videos and content, you get paid for it. You already got these pictures and videos in your phone, you posting them for free, right? You ain't making no money. Let me show you how you can start making money from it. So anyway, that's some of my journey. I think I left some things out, which I probably could touch on it later. But that's my journey. Oh, I didn't say this part. When I got my niece, my oldest niece, I was pregnant. Okay, with my third biological child. So my family grew from two to six children overnight, and I only gave birth to three. Well, was on my way giving birth to three. And I was just holding that thing down. Her husband was a widow, six mom. I adopted my two belated sister children. Had two sisters that passed away, and I adopted their children. I don't want to say one passed away. She was taken away actually, and her abuser is actually out. He's free. He got out in November of 2022 after doing about 11 years. He's I started vlogging on that too to like express how I feel about that situation because I also heard that he had questions as well. And my thing is like, how could you question anything that has happened when you have taken my sister away and you did this in front of your son? So how did you think he was going to be normal or adjust with life after seeing his father take his mother's life? So those would be my questions. But anyhow, we're gonna keep it like it is now because it's neutral. We pray that it continues to be neutral. But I will share more of my story on that, and that's my journey to content creating, y'all. It also helped me get into like acting as well. So I am an actress. I am in a movie that's on Amazon Prime. I do comedy sketches with a lot of known influencers or public figures, I should say, and it's definitely helped me with that. I've been able to get my children in it as well. So yeah, it's definitely changed my life and put my mind perspective on another level. As far as it's because it's actually a business, I do have to pay taxes on it. So I want to teach others how I'm doing what I'm doing. You can do the same thing. If this is something you want to do, don't allow nobody to sit there and tell you like, girl, that ain't nothing. You can't live off a content creator. You can, okay, and live good. All right, I'll talk to y'all later.